Hello, welcome. So this is lesson 10. First of all, we are over the hump, or we are at the base camp. I can't call it the summit, but I can say that we are halfway there in this exploration, in this journey of consciousness. There's 20 lessons in the first go-round of lessons for full spectrum humans, and we are at lesson 10, and this is the lesson where I actually tell you exactly how to shift your energy field and your genes by using the flying rainbow lasagna shape. So the first thing is, check out this video back here. This is a video about supercoiling. Supercoiling is the way that your DNA, one's DNA, is twisted from a simple 2-strand, and notice my very advanced pipe cleaners here that I'm using to show you this, 2 strands, the way that a yarn is made, and the way that that eventually gets wound around these proteins. These large blue proteins are called histones, and you can see the DNA is starting to become twisted and twisted and twisted. This has everything to do with the whirling and twirling motion of the world. The same whirling and twirling motion that makes your chakras happen makes your DNA twist and twirl. So wait, let me pause it for a moment. Right when it was at that chain structure, it was a simple yarn that was twisted and it hadn't yet started doubling back on itself. So what you're getting now as it goes into this level is you've put so much energy. And remember, when you twist something up, you're creating potential energy. We've put so much potential energy into this that it can't hold any more energy unless it starts to twist back up on itself. That's what starts to happen here. So now it actually starts to make like a loop or a knot. And you can see it starts to make several of them. And all of these loops and knots start to come together, and this is really how the fabric of your DNA is knitted. And then it ends with this lovely X shape, which we are all familiar with mostly from science class, that is all about the shape of your DNA during mitosis. All right, so hold on to your science hats, people, because now we're going to do, here we go, and bear with me while I work with technology, a little video about mitosis. I've got these all saved in my playlist here so that I can share them with you. Oh, it should be in here. Everything should be easy to find. Here we go. So this is pretty exciting stuff because science does, oh my goodness, it's making me have an ad. Okay, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I'll be able to skip this ad. Science, because it has the equipment, the technology to be able to look at things that are happening at a very tiny level, can be very informative. But one must be very cautious or skeptical about the conclusions that are drawn by the conclusions that are drawn based upon the facts that you observe with the fancy telescopes and microscopes. So here we've got a fancy microscope, and P.S. I love that kitty cat who's being a part of it all. That's a sweetheart, and give her a hug for me, because we love kitty cats around here. Yeah, that's wonderful. So this is all about mitosis. This is cell division, because I'm going to be talking about DNA as an aspect of replication. Remember, replication or reproduction is not merely about having a partner and reproducing sexually or even reproducing asexually. Reproduction is about making copies of yourself. If you're a cell, reproduction means, aha, it is time for me to make another version of me, because then I might have to deconstruct myself, which is called apoptosis. So over here, we're getting an excellent view of mitosis. This is cell division. So first of all, what we started, and I'm going to narrate because you can't hear their narration. Before, as you see, this is starting to organize itself. Let's rewind. All of that stuff, this is the cell nucleus, and all of that stuff in there is the sweater of your genetic DNA, and it has been unfurled. Took a thread and pulled out the entire sweater. And we did that so that your RNA messenger proteins can actually read the book of your DNA. Now, as mitosis is being prepared for in the cell starts to organize all this. It says to the library patrons, pack up all of your books and papers because we're going to have to copy everything and then we're moving. So everything is getting packed up, and that's what that supercoiling is. And then we see, oh, look at that, those familiar X shapes. that we ended the previous video on. So when your DNA is in the chromosome X, or if you're a male, Y shape, that it means it's like your luggage is all packed up and ready to go, because at a certain point, your DNA is just going to be hanging out in space. It's not going to have this, which is the cell, the nuclear membrane all around it. It's not going to have anything protecting it from what is essentially outer space to this inner realm. Like you've got an atmosphere around your planet right now. If you're not in the atmosphere of your planet, you're floating in space. The nuclear membrane is like the atmosphere of the planet, and the nucleus is like, oh, a nice comfy little place. But during mitosis, that atmosphere temporarily disappears so that the cell can split in half, and the chromosome needs to be tightly coiled. That's like equivalent of wearing a spacesuit, okay? So here it is all tightly coiled. Now these interesting things start to happen. These are tendrils and threads, these two things here, and they start to form lines of energy upon which the genetic material organizes itself. So it begins to orient itself, and one of these poles is going to be one cell, and one of these poles is going to be the other cell. This is preparing to be two new cells. That's a pretty amazing thing if you think about it. This is something that is taken for granted by you, me, and other beings who have cellular life. Don't take it for granted, because it's a miracle. It's a miracle. Your cell phone or some other piece of technology, or even this metal canteen, it doesn't simply decide one day, I'm going to make a copy of myself. There should be two of me. The world needs another metal canteen. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen with objects like that. That only happens with us, organic, living, cellular matter. So this is a magical occurrence, or a miracle that we are watching, and it is a miracle that literally happens tens of thousands of times a day in each of our own bodies. So this is another part of the teaching. All of this is necessary to understand Flying Rainbow Lasagna. So stick with me, guys, and welcome to the person who just came on. Oh, it looks like it's Cheyenne. Hello, welcome. I'm starting off this occasion with a few videos. The videos are all about genes and cell mitosis. It's kind of, here we go, I'm just going full screen. There we go. It's all about the wonderful aspects of science that allow us to see what's going on a subcellular level. So we are at the moment when your genetic information has been tightly coiled into the chromosome package. That's like having your bags packed, and this cell is getting ready to split itself in two. The magical thing that living organic stuff can do that inorganic stuff can't do. So let's play the video. Now you start to see what happens when the chromosomes arrange themselves along these lines of energy, and the lines of energy are actually like tendrils or fibers inside of your cell. So they start to organize themselves perfectly, and at a certain point they split off. So it's like you've made two perfect copies, and one copy goes to one side and one copy goes to the other side. I know it might not be perfect and able for you to see, but remember, I did send these links out in the email, and I can post them on the Facebook website if you're interested. And now that the chromosomes have split into their two separate portions, now you can see, bam, we get a nuclear membrane around each one of them again. But for a little while, they were hanging out in empty space with no membrane around them. That's like being super exposed. To give you an idea, like everything in the cell is all about protecting this genetic material. That's why you have a cell membrane, that's why you have a nuclear membrane, and that's why you only allow certain special cellular messengers into the cell nucleus, the RNA messengers. It's like at the membrane of the nucleus, it's like a library where everyone gets checked. Do you have a library card? Are you allowed to come inside? If you're not allowed to come inside, you're just going to stay out there, because inside of the nucleus is where special things happen. And I have described in the past that your DNA is like a bridge of light. It is the bridge between the world of uncollapsed waveforms and probabilities and possibilities and ideas, and the world of seemingly hard-edged objects and lasagnas that can be picked up and felt and experienced and changed and, lived amongst. So that is mitosis, cell division. Now let's go one more. I want to show you epigenetics, and I want to show you what the DNA replication. This is the major thing, all right? So first I'm showing you the video, then we will get more into my magical pipe cleaners demonstration. These are magical high-tech pipe cleaners, I'm telling you people. Okay, so you can't hear the voiceover, but in the email link, you'll be able to hear it, and it's wonderful. This is an animation that comes from scanning electron microscope information of actual strands of DNA while they are in the process of replicating. So sometimes DNA is replicated because you've got one cell that's going to split apart and have two cells. Sometimes DNA is replicated because it's like, oh, here's interesting information. I'm going to want to copy that and take it out of the genetic library and then use it to build an earlobe or a neck or a shoulder or an experience in reality. So the way that that happens is, remember, we have these tightly wound DNA strands, and then the DNA strands are wound even tighter and tighter and tighter. In order for them to be read, that whole apparatus of your chromosome has to be unfurled. The sweater is unraveled until we get to the point of having just two strands. And then these two strands are unfurled, and you end up getting a loop like that. There's my high-tech demonstration. Well, this is what you have back here in this picture. This is the two strands together, and then this is that loop coming out of it. And these little fantastic funky things right here are aspects of RNA. So there are these little subcellular microscopic machines that whirl and twirl. So again, just like the action of whirling and twirling energy that creates the four vortexes of your chakras, on a tiny subcellular level, the whirling and twirling motion of messenger RNA, putting energy into and taking energy out of your DNA, is what allows your DNA to be read. When this loop is created, the little RNA make a copy of this. And I get into all of this in the recorded lesson, so I urge you to listen to, in the homework, it's lesson 9 and lesson 10. So in case you're showing up here to the video conference and you're not familiar, there are recorded lessons that are the information and backstory to this live presentation here. So lesson 9 and 10 are all about these aspects of your own genes. And this is very empowering information. It's like finding out that you have a liver or a spine or bone marrow. It's like, oh, that's how this body works. Yes, this is how this body works. So you have a logic puzzle on the level of your genetics. Only 4 letters, 4 amino acids, A, C, T, and G, and they're only allowed to have certain combinations or dance partners, right? And those 4 letters form the overarching alphabet of your whole entire existence. Not only your body, but all of the experiences you're having in the physical reality. So if A always matches up with C, and G always matches up with T, and we have this little RNA messenger, and it says, ah, there's an A over here. We know, therefore, it's like Sudoku or any logic puzzle, its matching friend over here has to be an A. So C and A always go together. So then what the RNA does is it grabs an A and matches it up with that C and starts to make like a chain, like a necklace, trailing out behind it. And that necklace is like a photocopy or a note on a piece of paper. You're not allowed to take the big leather-bound volumes out of the library. That's your genes. Those are protected. What you are allowed to do is make a photocopy or write some notes to yourself so that then you can actually take that information with you. So I've done a lot of talking. Picture's worth 1,000 words. Let's get into the video and so that you can see what's going on here. So here you can see the big loop coming out here. Here you can see that it's moving like a machine. It's like some kind of a sewing machine. Things come out, things click into place, things hop out to the side. And this is happening, like I'm telling you, literally 70,000 times a day on a subcellular level within you. This is an excellent visual example of how your genes are constantly twisting and morphing and vibrating. They're not just sitting there. They're going like this, they're going like this, they're going like this, they're going like this. They're whirling and twirling constantly. Do you see? This is a beautiful animation because it really gives you an idea of how active your genes are. You are like an instrument, like a harmonic instrument, like a piano or a violin or a beautiful harpsichord, and you're filled with these vibrating strings, and they are constantly being played or stimulated, and that is creating your reality. So now that we have done all of that, and I'll let this keep going, okay, it's almost at its end. There we go. So that was really worth it. That was good. Now hopefully technology will cooperate with me as I return to my educreations. Hooray! Where all of my little things are waiting for me. So now I'm going to start recording my educreations. And again, all of these blackboards or whiteboards that I do back here, if you're looking at it and saying, that's great, Aurora, but I don't have a microscope. I need a scanning electron microscope to see what you're drawing up there. That's okay. All of these are recorded and posted on educreations, and this past weekend I tidied up the joint a little bit, made sure that everything is properly labeled and sent out a mass email so that we have a recording of each one of our video conferences and the class lecture that's on the whiteboard behind me. And do not be concerned, one time or two times we had some issues with sound, and so there's not full material, but it's most of the way there. Okay, so this is the lesson where I get to share with all of you, the information of exactly what is happening on a subcellular level in becoming a flying rainbow lasagna. On the one hand, you have your overarching energy field. I draw pictures of that all the time. Giant rainbow energy field all around you. And that in of itself is being twisted and morphed into a flying rainbow lasagna shape. The planet herself has an energy field called the magnetosphere. It is created by the whirling and twirling motion of Earth's crystal core, and it itself is also turning into the shape of a flying rainbow lasagna. I know this. It is like Earth is my dance partner, and we dance together, and the dance steps that we do is called the flying rainbow lasagna. So how can I describe this to you? Novices, it's like if you've never danced salsa music before and you're like, those people look like they're having fun, I need to learn these dance steps. So one of the first things is, let me move this into place so that hopefully you can see it better and expand it. There you go. This is the flying rainbow lasagna from the top down. So you see me wearing them like this. I often show it like this, but this is what the flying rainbow lasagna looks like from this angle. All right? And now, remember my high-tech pipe cleaners that I'm using in today's demonstration. These are your strands of DNA, and I have spoken many times and alluded to many times in this class, without giving the full galactic history, that there was an event, a traumatic event in the history of Earth culture, roughly 10 to 20,000 years ago, that I describe it as a degradation of your DNA. And also, I have called it a flattening of one's DNA. In the same way, if you tried to take a bunch of flowers and stick them underneath a door or through a horizontal mail slot in order to get them into somebody's house, the flowers all have to be compacted down. This is what has happened to human DNA, and it's part of your heritage, and now I am here, along with others, to rectify the situation. My part in this task of rectifying the situation is bringing information about your cosmic dance partner. So when we begin to pop your DNA into a new format, there is a cosmic dance partner that prevents your DNA from all collapsing back in again. And that dance partner is a new dimension. It's just like saying, I can have these together like this, and that makes a line, right? And a line, I think I've done this before in this class, is one-dimensional, because it only takes one piece of information to say where a dot is along this line. But if we pop this forward, and if we make it into, let's say, a circle, it's not a sphere, it's just a circle, But a circle is two-dimensional. Look at that, it has two dimensions. So now we've gained another dimension. Well, okay, this is going on a genetic level. What you have is your one strand of DNA like this that's twisted together, but I've already illustrated to you with scientific proof that for a certain portion of the life cycle of your DNA, it is actually split apart into more of a shape like this. Almost like a hat or like a big loop sticking out like that, all right? So what we've done is gone from linear, one-dimensional, to two-dimensional, all right? What the flying rainbow lasagna allows you to do is keep this loop open and have it be a stable shape. Because if you just had all of your DNA all unfurled and all loops like this, you would not be able to maintain biological metabolism. You would not have a stable organism that could still be alive. But if you flying rainbow lasagna, and yes, it can be a verb, and that is the verb for this class, you can use the flying rainbow lasagna as a type of placeholder. So what I'm doing now is trying not to fumble it around too much, but to show it to you, we had that loop. Well, what if we have one side of your DNA going around this side of the lasagna, and one side of your DNA going around the other side of your lasagna? And that is what you end up getting. So you've got, this is, oops, I had it, but I lost it, but now I have it again. This side over here, of course, twists together, and this side over here twists together, and the DNA loop goes around the perimeter. So it actually goes up and down and up and down. Look at that. That's a new interesting format. That's much more new and interesting, first of all, than just this. So that's one of the first things is you've added another dimension by lasagnifying, making your DNA like the curly edge of a lasagna noodle, and you have also held your space open with this flying rainbow lasagna. This is like your invisible dance partner. So science probably would not be able to perceive this. This is like a non-physical energy structure, like your chakras are a non-physical energy structure. So science is not yet sophisticated enough to perceive that this is going on, but it probably would be able to perceive some of the new formats into which your genes are putting themselves. So here's a brief tangent as I go into my wonderful little video and cha-cha-chas back here. This, I hope you can see it. I hope the video quality is good enough. This is a new format of DNA. What you have is one strand comes up here, one strand comes up from over here, one comes from over here, one comes from over here, and then they all meet and do-si-do in the middle. This came from a scholarly article. I don't have the link to it, but I will tell you that it's not good, not bad. This particular formation of DNA is found in cancer. And so science has been able to use this in order to say, this is a marker for cancer. We know we can find that there's something, highly wrong when we see this going on. But I do not want you, as the class of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, to equate forming new higher dimensional shapes with your DNA with forming cancer. The two are not synonymous. It just happens to be that this is like being like, oh, look, there's that weird shape, and it happens to be with a bunch of diseased cells. But this is science evidence of some of the new formations that DNA is twisting and morphing itself into. DNA is going to be twisting and morphing itself into all sorts of fun and interesting shapes. So here's another interesting, I had this up last week, but it's too hard to see. It's too pale really to see, but this is these are some drawings from a scholarly article, and they look almost like braids, and this is what DNA looks like. These are braided chains of DNA on a microscopic level. Your DNA is weaving itself together into these unbelievably complex formats of over-under. Like if you've ever seen Celtic knotwork, it is that complex, and these are only some of the formations that have been perceived using a scanning electron microscope. So all of this is in order to satisfy the juiciness of your rational mind that says, Aurora, show me pictures, show me evidence, show me that this is really happening, show me that this is really a possibility. Yes, there's really evidence, there's really pictures, this is really happening, and this is all about forming new dance steps, new things that you can do with your genes that weren't previously available. So, okay, what the significance of this? So first of all, we have made, if you've ever heard it called a camel path, where you have a path and then there's something like that died, and so the camels walked around it on either side, but then it joins up again. That's what you have right here. The DNA is together on this side of my hands, it splits apart, goes around the lasagna, comes back together here. So one of the first things is, this lasagna shape is created by this little purple dot jumping back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'll use a little something smaller than my finger. It's jumping back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it is creating this vortex shape. Again, the whirling and twirling motion is what creates these energetic shapes. So adding the new dimension has everything to do with adding energy, jumping in this new perpendicular direction. And here I'm showing you a legible, hopefully legible diagram. This is all about that supercoiling. Remember the first video that I showed you this evening? When you twist and twist and twist and then it starts to double back on itself, that's what's going on down here. And at a certain point, you get to this little red shape over here, which is a torus. It literally is called a protamine DNA toroid. And then down here at the bottom, what you have is a whole stack of donuts. And let's say it like Homer Simpson together. Donut. Protamine DNA toroid. But the point that I bring this up with some lighthearted, joshery is that every place you've got a torus, you can have a flying rainbow lasagna. And I now want you to envision all of these little donuts down here becoming flying rainbow lasagnas. Look at that. They all start to jump back and forth like this, creating flying rainbow lasagna shapes. So at the same time that you are experiencing changes in your overarching energy field, you are experiencing analogous changes on your microscopic energy fields. And the two interplay. The two are as one. Remember last week I also spoke about how all of our genes are vibrating and all of our genes are affecting one another, and the interdimensional ethics of affecting other people with your vibration. It's kind of like saying, I'm singing all the time, and I'm singing whether you want to hear it or not, and you're sticking your fingers in your ears, and I'm going to sing anyway. Like I'm a flying rainbow lasagna, so I have a very particular song, and it is definitely affecting other people's genes. We are all allowed to affect each other's genes. It's what we're here for. We are divine emanations of solar consciousness. We all come from that unity consciousness, and we are here to affect one another. The idea is to do it with unconditional love. That means that I am not merely capriciously reaching into your energy field and being like, I want to monkey around and do what I want. I want to do what's good for me. Hopefully I'm a divine conduit, and that the impact that I'm having on the world around me is the impact that higher consciousness or divinity would want me to have and would want each one of us to have. That literally we are all being tuned up. So Earth is being tuned up. This is called the Schumann resonance. Schumann resonance. Well, should I draw a little picture of it? I'll make a little space and draw a little diagram back here. This is what's going on between Earth and her atmosphere. So if this green dot is Earth and this black line is the outer level of her atmosphere or the stratosphere, then the Schumann resonance is what is happening with this red energy as it bounces off the surface of the planet and off the underside of the stratosphere. So there's always energy bouncing back and forth like this, and this has everything to do with line of sight and satellite communications and even weather control aspects such as HARP. But let's not get into all of that, those vagaries for the moment. Let's just understand that Earth has a vibration, and that vibration, first of all, how fast the energy is moving back and forth, right? Because vibration is made of two things. This goes back to lesson 1 in this class. wavelength and frequency. Wavelength is how many waves can crash on the ocean, the size of the wavelengths, and frequency is how quickly those waves crash on the ocean. So Earth's frequency is raising. Not necessarily the wavelength, because it's not necessarily the size of the atmosphere that is changing or growing, but the frequency, the number of times per minute that energy is hopping back and forth between the atmosphere and the surface of the planet is increasing, okay? And that has been measured by science. So the planet's vibration is increasing. Your individual vibration is increasing. So is the sun's experience of vibration increasing. So all of this is about, yes, you have a vibration and you are allowed to affect the world around you with that vibration. I want to go back now, refocus to the lasagna, because we haven't even gotten into the special qualities of what happens when you open up your DNA like this. Like, let's say now that there's an invisible lasagna between these two strands of DNA. All right, so there's an invisible lasagna in there hopping back and forth, but I had to make it invisible so that you could see what's going on here. So in the past, you were only ever allowed to be dance partners with the amino acid directly across from you. If you're adenine down here, you are allowed to dance with cytosine up here. You're not allowed to dance with cytosine over here. He's way across the gym. You're not allowed to do that. You're only allowed to dance with the guy who's directly across from you. Like teeth on a zipper, this is the way that your genes have been arranged. But when you turn your genes into a higher dimensional lasagna state, all of a sudden you have access to more combinations. This little adenine over here, it doesn't just have to hop across and connect with this amino acid over here. We can turn it. Ooh, what happens if I turn it? Now line it up with the camera. All of a sudden, this finger here is lining up with something that's more like here. This finger and this finger are lining up. Wow, look at in the different position they are. That's like saying, I get to read a book in a new order. I get to put the words of the book of DNA into a new order. No longer just this guy and this guy, now this guy and this guy. When we have a circular format like this, we can go all the way around and we can look at it and say, oh, this side matches up with this side. Look at that. Those two words can come together. And you know, when I showed you some of these scientific articles about the DNA, your DNA is do-si-doing all the time. Do-si-do, this is square dance. When it's like you meet your partner across and you do-si-do and you do-si-do back again, this is what your DNA is always doing. It's going back and forth, back and forth. When you open your DNA into a flying rainbow lasagna format, all of a sudden, these dance partners can do-si-do with these dance partners over here. So this is very analogous to the movie Contact. If you haven't seen the movie, it's pretty good. It does not have a convincing love story, but it does have some cool ideas about interstellar contact. Mike is laughing because I think he saw the movie, and Jodie Foster just did not really convince me that she was in love with Matthew McConaughey at all. But she did convince me that she was a radio telescope scientist and that she was very smart and searching for foreign life. And in the movie, they receive these broadcasts and they're writing down the broadcasts like, you know, printing it out on flat pieces of paper. And they're looking at it and they're like, we just can't make heads or tails of this, you know, alien writing. It's so crazy. We can't get it. And it wasn't until Jodie Foster understood that in order to decipher the information on the flat piece of paper, it had to be folded as if it was going around the edges of a cube. All right? And then there's some writing on this paper, but then all of a sudden, the way that the edges met, it made a completely new and different message. Like literally, let's think about this. Let's say that this is a piece of paper, and when I write on it, I say, always do blah, 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 right? But then let's say that I fold this piece of paper, and I fold that particular message out of the way, and all of a sudden, there's a new piece of information. And always do turns into something else. Blah, blah, blah is now hidden, and now there's new information available there. Or let's think about this. Let's say this is flat information, right? What happens if I, let's say, tear it in half? Oh my goodness. And now all of a sudden, I can have this information over here. This was a person's email address that I was sending. So ordinarily this would, go together like this, right? But all of a sudden, look, I can have this be in a completely different format. I can have, and it's a little bit hard to do with the camera. Hello, welcome. Oh, hi, we got
Lucy and Renee.
Lucy and Renee, welcome, my dears. Well, you're learning tonight how to reformat your DNA into a new configuration and create new, let's say, possibilities out of what was the previous deck of cards. You're shuffling your genetic deck of cards into new and interesting formats. So you're able to fold the message and say, you know something, this is even better because there's writing on the front and this writing is now on the back. And look at how different the message becomes if I cut it in half and turn it around like that. That is exactly what we do when we split our genes apart and we create, you gals missed it, so if you have just tuned in, we're talking about during the life cycle of genes, when they are replicating, when RNA is the messenger that is replicating them, they are naturally split into loops. That's what this still shot from this video is over here, and I sent out some emails about that on YouTube. But if you just had all of your loops unfurled like this on a genetic level, you die. Like your body could not be sustained. You need an invisible dance partner. That's the flying rainbow lasagna. This is your invisible dance partner that holds your genes apart. And just like Jodie Foster in the movie Contact, understanding, wait, these blueprints don't make any sense until I make them three-dimensional. What science calls junk DNA, essentially these are scientists saying, well, these blueprints just don't make any sense at all when they're laid out flat. But if you fold them into the proper higher dimensional shape, everything fits together perfectly. So the idea is you might have had a previous amount of possibilities in your genes where in your genes there's 4 amino acids, adenine, cytosine, guanine, and taurine, and that these 4 always fit together in specific combinations, A always with C, T always with G. And so if you've got, and forgive me if I've mixed that up or if I bobbled my words, but they're always in the same combinations. If you've got C over here, C is always going to fit with A over here. But what if we've made this a third-dimensional shape? What if we turn it like this? So all of a sudden, if C is over here, if C is over here, then that can connect with this little guy over here. And those two are here and here. So now all of a sudden, it's like saying you can put together new and interesting combinations that you couldn't have before. If we used music as an example, it's like saying now you can make a musical chord that you couldn't make before. Or flavors being put together, right? Good, it's a good analogy, it works, excellent. So this is all about what is special about the flying rainbow lasagna. You know, since I created this shape and I call it Ubuntu or open source code that is good for everyone, this is the whole idea that I did not want to be the only person in the world who could do this. I found this to be a miraculous thing and I wanted to share it with other people. So in order to do this with your DNA and turn it into a flying rainbow lasagna, first you even have to understand that your chakras are shaped like this. Then you have to understand that your chakras are made out of timelines. Then you have to understand that timelines are affected by consciousness. And then you have to understand how to place that consciousness in a higher dimensional space to create this. So what does it feel like? All right, what does it feel like when I flying rainbow lasagna as a verb? This is an excellent question. Oh my goodness, we have another feline. Who's visiting down there? That's awesome, because you know I have my furry overlord.
in the house.
That's nice. We love our furry companions. They're definitely family members, and mine is quite connected to the planet
Yes.
Lyra, or the star system Lyra.
Yeah.
They're wonderful guides and companions to us. And let's also say this, never diminish, or please do not ever look down on other organisms. Most organisms on this planet have DNA, and they're all being affected by the DNA changes and the changes in the Schumann resonance, and even items that do not contain DNA. Like if you think of the simplest one-celled organism, even though some of those do also. But let's say the consciousness of a rock. You know, it's not organic consciousness, but it still has consciousness. And the flying rainbow lasagna is a concept that can be applied not only to any organism that has DNA, but to any organism that has a toroidal energy field. So torus, this is the donut, and I showed you before, we'll back up a little bit over here, this is the donut on a genetic level. You've got this red donut up here and this row of red donuts down here, and that's happening on a tiny genetic level, while at the same time you have your donut shape vortexes all around you, and you are able to twist and morph those vortex shapes into a higher dimensional reality by creating the flying rainbow lasagna. So this was just 25 minutes about what's happening on a level like this, on the genetic level. However, I do not sit there and think to myself, genes, twirl, unfurl. Like, that's not how any of us do anything. You know, like if you want your muscles to grow, you don't sit there and think like muscles grow. You know, you do something. If it is running or weightlifting or dance or yoga, you do something, and then that builds the muscles through what you are doing. So the exercises, in order to change your DNA into a flying rainbow lasagna shape, they are exercises or movements of consciousness. And the first thing is about visualization, because I did in lesson 8, non-religious Christ consciousness, all about the power of your imagination. Your imagination is a part of your pineal gland. It's connected to that biological part of your body, but it also functions independent from your biological body. And it is all about your manifestation machine. With your imagination, you are manifesting and creating your reality. So first of all, you will be able to create an expanded version of reality, because you won't be limited to the dance partners of do-si-doing in a flat realm. You will now be less limited. I cannot say fully unlimited, because there's always a greater achievement to reach for. The universe is not necessarily hierarchical, but it is organized according to different octaves or levels of density that go up infinitely and down infinitely. So there's always a boss, there's always a manager. If you talk to your spirit guides and you don't get an answer you like, ask to speak to their manager, because there's always a higher manager. So when I talk about expanding your possibilities, this flying rainbow lasagna adds another dimension, and it expands your possibilities. And there's always a journey towards more and more greater degrees of freedom, okay? So now let's talk about what the actual consciousness exercises are. First of all, there's imagination or visualization exercises. And the first thing is, I am highly visually oriented, and I find that the way that I really learn something is by drawing it, or folding it, or touching it, or making it happen. So the first thing is to really understand the flying rainbow lasagna, to learn how to draw it, and to learn how to create one in the physical reality by, folding and taping paper together. This is an excellent way of exploring a shape, and it is very similar to the way that some young people learn their letters. There's like a board, and it's like a raised tactile sensation. You trace it with your hands and feel the letters, and it imprints it on a very deep level. Well, in lieu of that, right at this moment, I'm just going to hold this very close to the camera, and I'm going to use one of my magical pipe cleaners from tonight in order to trace what happens if you were a little ant walking on the surface of the lasagna. Here you are on the outside, and we define outside as any surface that faces the room that I'm in. So you're on the outside surface here, walking along this red zone, and all of a sudden, oh, hold on a second, I have to pause my edge creations and save my edge creations in the back. Okay, well, while that's saving, then we'll get back into this. Cool. While that is saving, I will show you the odyssey of the little ant walking on the flying rainbow lasagna. So here it is, walking on the red, and then all of a sudden, it is walking on the inside surface of this half cone. And that is defined as the inside, any surface that faces the interior of this little sculpture. But then the little ant continues on its journey, and boom, pops right back out on the outside surface. And to the journey of the little ant, to their perspective, there was no great leap. There was no bridge. There was no, I had to cross the road. There was just an endless continuity of their journey, in much the same way that a Mobius strip has just one side. Let's do this with the magical pipe cleaner. So this is my magical Mobius strip. I didn't invent it. Mobius did, and Mobius is a pretty fantastic mathematician that came from the previous century. And I'm also going to bring up, oh, if I have a chance, here, we'll bring up something nice to look at in the background. Good. So Mobius found out that if you take a surface, twist it once, and then join it together, you end up with an impossible shape. We're starting with the outside surface. Here I am traveling on the outside surface. Outside, outside, outside. What? I just turned into the inside surface. But I didn't go across a bridge or a road or anything like that. I just got into the inside somehow. But now, as I continue around and around and around, I'm on the inside surface, and now all of a sudden, what? How did that happen? I got to the outside surface. And that's the outside right there where my fingers are. Now let's trace the edge, okay? So, oh my goodness, I'm tracing the outer edge. Look at that. And by outer, look, I'm on the top. Tracing the top edge, top edge, top edge, top edge. What? Something just happened right there. I'm on the top edge, but now I'm on the bottom edge. Oh, look at that. Now I'm on the bottom edge going around there. Bottom edge, bottom edge, bottom edge, bottom edge, thumb. And now I get back to the top edge. So this is a great visual representation of what is happening in reality. That essentially you are walking along. You are the little ant walking on the surface of the lasagna. And this is the surface of time. Remember, I have told you that this shape is created by the stretching of the stretchy fabric of the universe. And the stretchy fabric of the universe started with a little tiny seed that just add water and you get a universe. It's called the Big Bang. This is the theoretical cosmogenesis, and it's held by the philosopher priests of this particular time and place. They're called physicists, and they tell us this is where the world comes from. You know, in the previous time, it would have been the world came from a group of elephants. The world came from divine beings. They say the world came from a tiny world seed that one day decided to explode. And as it exploded and expanded outward, it created a bubble. The bubble's surface is the present moment. Everything that's inside of the bubble is the past, and everything that's outside of the bubble, well, science does not recognize it, but it would be everything that hasn't happened yet. Now, let's say we take this bubble of time and start to dimple it with big giant fingers of consciousness. This way, well, that's making these two vortexes. And then I go in here, and then I go in here, and then I even pinch it together like this, and this is how we create this. But the issue is, this is still the outside of the bubble. And there's no way to get to the inside of the bubble. This is another way of showing, don't you love my high-tech things here? So this is made out of like child's clay. These orange lobes correspond to the dark, shadowy, interior, negative spaces in here, all right? So imagine if you're on the outside of one of these lobes, you can't get to the inside in there. There's no doorway, there's no way to get in there, okay? The flying rainbow lasagna allows for the intercommunication of these two surfaces. The outside becomes the inside, and the inside becomes the outside. This radicalizes your experience because no longer do we have a discrete differentiation between your quote-unquote inner realm of thought, energy, spirit, timelines, probability, and the outer realm of cellular life, hard-edged objects, and consensual reality. This is a seamless integration of the two. So now let's talk about dolphins. These are quite amazing creatures. If you actually looked at a dolphin's brain, the surface is more convoluted than a human's brain. And humans have oh so hubristically said that the more convolutions you are, the smarter you are. But humans have oh so hubristically most definitely not recognized that dolphins have a whole lot more convolutions than humans do. Mike has a question. The question is, just calling up a little chat box here. Question is, could you trace one timeline on the Flying Rainbow Lasagna from beginning to end, or does that make sense? That's a beautiful question. Absolutely. I should draw it on the screen behind me. Let's see if we can trace a Flying Rainbow Lasagna timeline. So ordinarily, I draw timelines like a, simplification like this, right? But that is flat. That's not what's really going on. What's really going on is we have a central pole, like a maypole, and then we have a vortex of energy that whirls upward like that, okay? So in order to have a Flying Rainbow Lasagna timeline, we would still have an upward facing maypole, but then we also have its cousin, a downward facing maypole, or its brethren, or however you want to state it. And energy goes around here. Oops! Then the maypole shifts down to the opposite direction. And this right here, that's a wormhole. So this little particle of consciousness that's flying along, it doesn't stop. It doesn't go across a bridge, it doesn't hop in a car, it doesn't get in an airplane. It goes through a wormhole, and then it goes into it enters a wormhole here, and then it goes around this way. And then, oh my goodness, you know what happens then? This arrow down here, it changes its focus and goes back to pointing up again. So this little dot of consciousness has now gotten to over here. It goes through a wormhole, and it comes out through the wormhole over here. And then it goes halfway around, and then goes through a wormhole, comes out over here. Oops, sorry, wrong place. It should be down here. Comes out over here and goes down there, and then comes out over here and goes around here, and then comes down over here. I'm sorry, I'm getting too excited. It goes around there. But I've even got an animation. I showed that in a previous lesson, and I'm happy to hop away for a moment and show that. But it's just, if I do that, then the edge creations will lose a bit of continuity. But I have an animation that's all about, it shows essentially the oscillation of the singularity between this upper point and this lower point. So I also use the analogy of God's thumb, or a higher dimensional thumb. All right? And you are a little ant, and you're always walking towards the thumbnail version of the thumb. All right? You're always walking in that direction. Half of the time, the thumb is pointed in this direction. Half of the time, the thumb is pointed in this direction. But that doesn't matter to you. In your tiny microscopic world, you just keep plodding along, walking towards the tip of the finger. This is you and me. We're going through time. We just keep going along. Look, another minute goes by, another minute goes by. Hey, it used to be breakfast, now it's lunch, soon it's going to be dinner. We keep going through time, totally unaware that half of the time we're traveling in this direction, half of the time we're traveling in this direction, because we are on a higher dimensional journey, just like the little ant that was not aware that it was on this outer surface, then it switched to this inner surface, then it switched to this outer surface. The colors on the Flying Rainbow Lasagna are also significant of what is going on in reality, because I would like you to look at where energy is joined up together. On the red area going around the perimeter here, and at the violet area. But none of the other areas join together. Look, there's a big gap there between the orange, big gap between yellow, big gap between green, gap between these blues. What that really means in the system of interpretation of the chakras is that out here energy is joined together in the physical realm. And over here, energy is joined together at the source. But all of these other levels are not joined together and communicative. That means your emotions, intellect, unconditional love, truth, and insight, all of those central chakras in your body, in order for them to connect with someone else's chakras, they have to come either down to the physical realm or have that interaction at the source. Those are the two places to have interaction of energy. So according to that description, this physical realm that you see before you is a stage for the manifestation of the interaction of various levels of consciousness manifested as different layers of density or energy or we could say emotion or emotional energy. The physical realm is a stage where all of these rainbow colors come out to play. So for example, your orange chakra layer, in order to have your feelings interact with someone else's feelings, what you have to do is have a physical body. And then you can either talk to them, share information through writing, touch their skin, throw a rock at them, have an interaction. But if you didn't have a physical body, you wouldn't be able to interact. There would be nothing connecting it. If I cut off the red zone, it would just end at orange. And same thing with what's going on up here. Look at that. Look at where all of those beautiful vortexes all come together. That is the source. That's like saying parallel lines meet at infinity. This is infinity. This is unity consciousness. This up here and this down here. These are the places where we all meet. All of us, not just all of us on this video conference, but everything that exists meets, including everything that's totally evil and totally antithetical to your purpose and totally seems like the opposite of everything that you are is up there too. You're all together. We're all together up there. It's unity consciousness. So according to this model, we get to, and not only this model, but it's this model also, we get to interact in two realms. One is the realm of the source, total consciousness, where we are all connected in divine unity. And one is the realm of physical matter, where we are here as manifestations of that divine consciousness. And this is a reminder to anyone who's ever like, oh, pish tosh, I hate my physical body. I hate being here on earth. I hate, it's such a drag. Life is so unfair. Life is so unpleasant. It's like, you know something, this is an amazing opportunity to be here to experience all of these forces, all of these, you know, some of them are uncomfortable or whatever, but this is all divine and it's a wonderful opportunity. If we did not have a physical realm, we would not be able to have this opportunity. With the invention of the flying rainbow lasagna, it now means that we are redefining, quote unquote, the physical realm. Because now the physical realm is a combination of both the outer, seeming world of hard-edged objects, and the inner, the realm of your thoughts and your desires and your energy and your spirit. You know, for a long time, these two realms were artificially separated. That was never the intention of the meta-programmer of reality. Meta meaning overarching. So yes, there is a higher consciousness meta-programmer, like the great script writer or the great chess master or mistress in the sky that is making everything happen. That person is an absolute genius beyond geniuses and is absolutely capable and adept at organizing our reality. There have been challenges to the proper manifestation and organization of reality, and this also has to do with, you know, it's like saying winter happens after summertime. These are the pendulums of consciousness, pendulums, the polar opposites that happen in this oscillation of consciousness exploring itself. So we're all emanations of divine consciousness, coming from the sun, coming from the great galactic center. 1 second. And we also are here on this journey exploring one another and coming to our life experiences, and we are on a process of refinement. So, okay, what is the eventual destination? It is eventually the very place where we came from. So the source is the destination, and I covered this in lesson 7. This is all about the rainbow journey. So, what is it like to be made out of a new form of matter? You're no longer, like, you know that old scientific adage, E equals mc squared. This means we've got an equation. On the one side of the equation, we've got energy, and on the other side of the equation, we've got mass. And equation means it's like seesaw. They have to balance. The two sides have to balance. What happens if we put them both together? Mass plus energy. What happens on the other side? Well, it's like, wow, we just folded the seesaw in half. That thing is totally out of balance now. How is that going to work? That is the realm that we currently are experiencing. It is a transition to get into this state, and we must become like expert violin players, and right now we are relatively squeaky newcomers, sawing away and not really getting the sounds that we want. But this new type of matter is matter imbued with consciousness. So no longer do we have just like an inert thing. This is no longer a regular metal canteen. This is a canteen that is created by my mind, and it responds to consciousness. That is the same with all matter that you now see before you. Instead of thinking of it as, that's just stupid matter, it's inert, it doesn't think, it doesn't feel, it doesn't have consciousness, it doesn't respond to my mind. You have to start thinking of it as like a type of putty or clay or something that can be shaped and that responds to your mind and to your energy. This is the new world that we are stepping into. And it takes cultivation of your own consciousness and of your own inner capacity to be responsible. Because if you're in a world made of divine substance, like clay that can be made into anything, be responsible. Make it into something nice. Don't just, smush it around and make it look all ugly. You're controlling reality. Make it look nice. So one of the first things is beginning with your being. Because you get to control reality and you get to start with your home turf, your own body. First of all, our physical forms and bodies have always responded to our mind and our consciousness and our thoughts and our verbs, what we're saying to it. This is not new. So the mind-body-spirit connection is even recognized by medical science. And we are now ratcheting up the time between when something is manifested. So when you think a thought to when it is manifested is now this quick. There's no time lag between you thinking something like, this is what I'm feeling, and experiencing it. Okay, so Zach is getting out of here because he's got a dead battery, but thank you so much for tuning in. I totally appreciate it. Have a great night, Zach. And as always, this will be video recorded, and you can check out the archive on YouTube, and I will post it later. It gives me a moment to have a little bit of a break.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm in I'm actually in the intensive care unit with my dad here.
Oh my goodness.
And he had surgery last week, and he's having a hard time breathing. So I just thought I would ask y'all for some cosmic love and support.
Yes. Happy to send it. And because we are all divinely connected, we are all connected at the source, and we are also connected in the physical reality, our thoughts and our energy absolutely have an impact. So I would like everyone who's in this classroom right now and also later on when you have a real moment to meditate, send some beautiful divine light, healing, and love and consciousness to Zach's father. And I'm so happy that you asked us for that.
Bruce.
We are happy to do that.
His name's Bruce.
Sending it out to you, Bruce.
Okay,
We
thank
got
you.
it addressed to him on the cosmic address.
Good night, y'all.
Have a good night, Zach.
Night.
We love you.
And there's another question in the chat room. The question from Renee, she says, I was swimming in the lake and these amazing light sources reflecting from the sun made these messages that were indescribable, yet seemed like a form of an alphabet. How do you read this message in light form, and what is the interpretation? Okay, that's a beautiful question, because all of this has to do with beginning to perceive through your third eye. This is direct perception. So when you start to see, like you were seeing codes of information coming directly from the sun, it's just like if I brought you into a scientific laboratory or advanced math class and you saw all sorts of, like formulas written on the board, and you were like, I'm totally intimidated. I have no idea what this is saying. It's way beyond me. That's not true. You've just come into the middle of the information. That if you start from day one and you go through all of the information, that eventually you will come to understand the totality of the picture that was shown to you. So understand that this is often the way that the universe teaches us, that first there's an information dump. Like, I'm just going to give you a shower and pour a bucket of this information on top of you. And you're kind of like, I'm totally knocked out. Like, there's so much here. Like, what is it? I don't understand it. And then little by little, it's almost like unraveling something or taking the knots apart. You start to consciously understand it, and you understand it like with building blocks, like starting from foundations, from letters to words to sentences to paragraphs. That's been my experience, and so I would say that that's how I would approach it. When you get a download like that, first just be in meditation. Just allow it to come in. You don't have to ask too many conscious questions. Just allow the light to come into you. And then when you want to begin to understand, like, what was that really all about? Sit in meditation, bring your mind back to that moment, feel what it was like to be swimming in that river, and water is an excellent conductor for consciousness. That's why we often get great ideas in the shower, in the tub, swimming. It's because water helps us to hear. So bring yourself back to that mind state of being in that water, and you will begin to have that information percolate up. And also, don't judge whatever is coming up. Whatever, like, you don't say right, wrong, yes, no, just allow it to come up, and don't write a book about it right away. Don't call up everyone on the phone and say, I know I have all the information from the universe right away. Sit with it for a little bit, because sometimes what you get in chapter 1, then your understanding gets refined in chapter 2, and as it goes along, then you understand it more. So like, I've gotten some information from the solar consciousness about different things, and I knew, like, I got to sit with that a little bit before I'm ready to make it into a lesson, or before I'm really ready to talk about that. So don't be concerned about taking the appropriate amount of time in order to really let something percolate through. Don't press the plunger on your coffee before it's really done. And Noel has a great point. His chat response is, the understanding may not be in word form. And that's often been my experience, that I get flashes of light, flashes of geometry, sometimes a direct understanding, but it's not often something that can be put into words. It's why I'm an artist. It's why I draw my ideas as pictures. And sometimes, even if I don't know exactly what it is, I just draw, and it comes out. And then eventually that drawing is my mind's way of understanding, but it can be whatever it is. Some people like to go for a long walk. Some people like to noodle around on the piano. Whatever's your particular way of figuring something out, you can be, feel like cosmic confidence, like that will come out and I'll understand it. And also, sometimes things are happening on the level of the higher self that do not have to be fully comprehended by the ordinary temporal mundane ego. Like sometimes it's like, okay, like that was some freaky stuff happening, and then that's just what it was, and you just allow it to be, and it builds because we are part of this miraculous consciousness. Like whether we like sit down and say like I'm a part of it, or whether you just allow it to flow, you are a part of it. There's no way you cannot be a part of it. So really a lot of it has to do with relaxing and allowing insight to come to you. You don't necessarily have to reach for it. It comes to you in a very gentle way.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I was talking about this new form of matter. and how now we are becoming responsible creators and responsible users of the material world. So like, one idea is if you say, nothing good ever happens to me, and then of course nothing good ever happens to you. You have to take responsibility for the words that you're saying, the vibrations you're sending out, and the reality you're creating. So now let's say this: all matter responds to my mind. All matter responds to all of our minds. What I am thinking is literally making something happen. So let's say this. Let's say I'm trying to hammer something into the wall, and I'm like, this stupid thing won't go in, and I'm cursing and muttering and everything. I am making it not go into the wall. I'm making it hard on myself. Think about that every single time you're doing that. And this, when I approach life in this way, you're in divine co-creative partnership at every minute. So what that really means is, like, let's say I'm in the art studio, I'm trying to paint, and like the jar is really stuck on the lid, and I'm like, I can't get the lid off the jar, but I want to use my orange paint, and I have to recognize I am in divine co-creative partnership with the universe. We created this moment with the stuck jar, and we can make it better. And I say to my divine universal partner, hey, help me out, this jar is stuck. And asking for that help and assistance literally makes it possible. Or in a very biological sense, like when I go to the gym and, like I'm trying to lift some weights in order to be stronger and everything like that, the very first thing that I do is I think this is possible. I don't think this is impossible, this will never work, this will never happen, I can't do this is way too hard. I don't think any of those things. I think this is possible, and also this is fun, and this is good, and this can be comfortable, and this can be even happy. And we've got a comment from Noel down here. He says, sometimes being stuck is a message to do something else. Absolutely. And I have a teacher from back in Woodstock where I have gone to the Sweat Lodge quite often, and Peter Blum, you ladies might know him, and he has said in the Sweat Lodge with good wisdom that God does not, or the universe does not say no. Sometimes the universe says, not now, and sometimes it says, I have something better in mind for you. And we need to be open to those things, because sometimes you're like, but it's my dream job, or he's my dream husband, or she's my dream companion, or it's my dream cat. Whatever the thing is that you really, really want, if you feel like you're getting shut down by the universe, you're not. You sometimes need to be redirected. So sometimes if I'm like, I can't get the lid off of the stupid jar of paint, what is going on, universe? Sometimes the universe is saying, Aurora, you might want to try a different color. Or sometimes if I'm open to it, I find out like, something that wasn't the right shade of orange anyway, or, sometimes I can be more open to it. But guys, you also have to understand each one of our personality characteristics are divine, and sometimes I can be very specific. Sometimes I'm like, no way, universe, I'm using this color orange, and you're gonna get down here and help me whether you like it or not. And that's beautiful. That's the way it's supposed to be. This is literally when we live our lives like a flying rainbow lasagna. And it works with everything, with my experiences of going to the grocery store, my experiences in the professional world of sharing my artwork and teachings and going to conferences and other things. It absolutely works. And when it's okay if you get angry or frustrated, that's part of the learning experience. Like if you can envision, like sometimes you're painting on a painting and sometimes you just want to take it off the easel and like throw it out the window. You're like, this thing, I hate it. This is crazy. That's okay. That's all part of the creative process. And we are here on this divine co-creative mission. And, sometimes I'm in my studio and I'm like, oh, I am in the groove, this is going perfectly, and everything is good. So, and the universe feels that way sometimes too. So there's fits and starts. Sometimes we need there's like the transmission isn't working. Sometimes you need transmission fluid to make it work better. But you can feel at peace that you're moving ahead in the direction that you need to go. The main thing is, that's part of unconditional love. That when you are loving of yourself, you love that you don't know everything. You're like, something, if I have a baby and the baby's a new person, it's a perfectly great person, but it doesn't know everything. And it has to go through life experiences in order to learn about things. I'm that way, you're that way, we all are that way. And we're also in a new time. Flying Rainbow Lasagna, this era began in 2001. So much like the child who has just received the violin for their, present, and they try to play it and it makes horrible noise and they're like, the music is broken. It's like, no, your music isn't broken. You have to practice in order to make this work right. We've only been doing this since 2001. And I think, good question from Renee. She asks, is it about acceptance? Literally, yes. Literally, when you accept things, your heart is open. It's like saying, my eyes are open. I am seeing things. I'm accepting them. If my eyes are closed, I'm like, no, I don't want to see it. I don't want to accept it. Many people live lives with their eyes closed, or maybe eyes open a little bit, like, this is the amount that I'm willing to accept. All the rest, totally not okay with. And it has to do with your own inner resources, Sometimes it's too overwhelming or it seems too daunting, and so people have their blinders on or they live in their aspects of denial. The good news is with Flying Rainbow Lasagna, you can be an artist of your reality. It really works. You can talk to objects and they will cooperate. If I'm using the analogy like I'm trying to hammer something into the wall and it just won't work and I'm cursing at it and saying, stupid nail, why aren't you working? It's like, I'm obliging you. You're making me not work. If I say to it, please work, something, amazingly enough, they start to work. Simple things, simple mechanical tasks like, hammering a nail, technology, I'm really finding responds to me. Like, sometimes the computer doesn't want to do its thing. The computer is slow. The computer won't hop on. And I'm like, I got a video conference. You have to work right now. If I ask it, the computer responds. And this is beyond mere projection or animism or our own, desire to see human characteristics in inanimate objects. This is really reality responds to our thoughts. It's very similar to being in a dream, where what you are sending out is what you are experiencing in this dream. And I have said this many times, that we do live in a dream. Like sometimes people start to have an awakening, and they'll come to you and they'll be like, oh my God, Aurora, like, I think it's all just a dream. I think it's all just a matrix, or I think I might be dead. It's like, yes, you are dead. Yes, it is all a dream. It is all just the matrix. And if it is a dream, let us make it a good dream. Renee says, why don't people respond? Respond to the promptings of the universe, like respond to what is coming to us or what we're sending out.
What we're sending out.
I would say some people are responding to what we're sending out. There's definitely a spectrum in the population right now of people who have their eyes open to varying degrees. Some people are totally closed. Some people, they're looking this much. Some people, their eyes are totally open and they are totally accepting. So of the people whose eyes are totally open and they're totally accepting of what they see, they do see, hey, something? There's a total global conspiracy. It is in high levels of banking, high levels of government. It's in pharmacy, pharmacological healthcare. It's out there. That really exists. And these are things that would have been in previous decades considered mere conspiracy theories or something that but when enough a proportion of the population has their eyes open and they see that that's going on, then there is the bolstering or the social consensus. You literally amplify one another's vibration with your social consensus. So that's part of it. There's a larger proportion of the population that is opening itself up to these ideas now than before. So you will find more confirmation. And also, we're all aspects of consciousness on our journey, and unconditional love states, I cannot twist your arm and make you get enlightened any faster. I can't go to your bed at night and whisper in your ear, wake up, get enlightened, get out of your deadness, get into true reality. I can't do that. It is why I came and incarnated here in a human form, because I can't just wave my magic wand and poof, make everybody complete. Even the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, let me turn off my thing so it saves its battery. Even the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, all this is an option. I call this the antidote to civilization. I am not controlling your mind. However, an aspect of my consciousness is within you, And it gives you that split second, that opportunity to make your own choices. I'm not going to tell you how to paint. You know something? People have asked me to give like visionary painting workshops. And Renee is making the point of personal responsibility versus manipulation. Absolutely. Because here's the deal. If you only ever did something because you've got a gun to your head, you're not a very reliable person. And what we are heading into is the type of cosmic journey of consciousness where each person has to be in full responsibility of themselves. So it's like this. Let's say we were all going to hike the Appalachian Trail. You know something? You carry your own food. You carry your own water. You walk on your own. I'm not going to carry you. We are on a soul migration. It is as arduous as hiking the Appalachian Trail. We are migrating from star system to star system. Remember earlier in this lesson when I showed you the chromosomes engaged in mitosis, and for a little while they're splitting apart and then they're just hanging out in space and there's no cell membrane to protect them? That's going to be us in the not-too-distant future, okay? So much as I love you and want you to successfully make the transition, I cannot be holding your hand in that moment. I have to be in my own vessel. I have to be coiled up tightly as my own chromosome on my own journey of consciousness. It's just like geese flying in formation. You know, geese that are on their migration, they help each other out, they guide each other, but each one of those guys has to do their own flapping and get in their own way. And our experiences here on Earth as corporeal beings are building our muscles to make the soul migration. All of our challenges, all of our adversity, and all of our triumphs are all preparation for our soul migration. So we are now coming together into groups, like we're saying, like, I resonate with you guys as a group, and let's get together and let's amplify each other's vibration. That's part of it. That's the beginning part of it, because you don't only have to be like, you know, like Rocky Balboa, like fighting like a lone warrior. You don't have to be that way. You get to have a family of brothers and sisters around you, because when we make this journey of consciousness, we will do it as a group, as a collective. So it's not just going to be all about you being on your lonesome. However, you need to be able to carry your own food and water in your backpack and lift your own feet and make your own muscles move on the journey. This, all of our experiences here are all about being an artist of your own reality. So I was mentioning before, people have asked me if I would do teach a visionary workshop, visionary arts workshop. And that's a really hard one, because usually I say yes to everything, like, yes, I'll do it, I'll make it, I'll do it. Because to teach a class, I really feel with visionary arts, I can't teach you to have something inside of you that you don't have inside of you. If you're an artist and you have vision, that's wonderful. I could probably teach you skills like how to draw or how to paint something in particular or how to use paint or how to stretch a canvas. But it would be very difficult for me to teach someone else how to be an artist. I can teach you how to pick up a paintbrush, how to go to the art supply store, how to prepare something to paint on, how to draw a face, how to draw a box. However, I cannot teach you how to get your ideas for artistic manifestation or what you should be painting. That's the hardest thing to do also. Something? If you just want to be a hack, you just want to paint something, there's plenty of people who like to copy, great art. You paint, it's also a very good exercise. For a student, you go to a museum, you set up your easel next to a great piece of artwork and you copy it. This is how you learn. But really, being an artist is really about finding your voice and what you have to say and what you have to share. And for me, art is a metaphor, because I do artwork as my daily activity, but not everybody is a visual artist. Some people are administrators, and that is their highest art. Some people are sales. Some people are excellent extroverts, and they are in sales, and that is their highest art form. So it is really about each one of us cultivating our own highest capacity. And I would not have the hubris to dictate to you and say, okay, you over there, you should be a gardener, you over there, you should be a veterinarian, you over there, you should be this. No, you all get to choose your own perfect divine existence. And when we go on our flight of consciousness, when we are no longer limited by the vagaries of time and space and gravity and living on an actual planet, we will be beautiful co-creative artists in a big, not only a group show, because it's not just that you're making your own work, big collaborative co-creative installation. That's called heaven. That's where we're heading. Yes. So it's a pretty wonderful and exciting thing, and you can see that all of the little experiences that we're having here, quote unquote, on the ground, that all prepares us for this massive journey of consciousness. So it all is worthwhile, even in moments of frustration. I get frustrated, oh my goodness, I have housemates, they hear my frustrations. In moments of frustration, it's okay, because you know it does all add up to something. It does all matter. It matters, get it? Because we're in the realm of matter and the material world. It all matters. It really does. So I know I just did like a lot of talking. Definitely want to open it up to questions, comments from others. Noelle says, a friend of mine and I walked the labyrinth under the full moon last night. It was a very centering and energy calming experience. That is excellent. That is wonderful to hear. Positive experiences on the full moon. I often have the opposite. I often have negative experiences, or just that there's too much energy going on, too much, and that it can sometimes be overwhelming to me, and I need to turn off and remove myself from connecting to reality and just make artwork or do spirituality. Question from Noelle. What do I know about labyrinths, and are they similar to the FRL? Great question. So what I know about labyrinths is that they are a divine external manifestation of all of the sacred patterns of the universe that we have inside of us. And pretty much when you're an artist and you're making an expression, whatever it is, if it is a painting or a sculpture or a feature of design in the landscape or clothing that you're wearing or any kind of thing, it's all an expression of what is inside of you. We all have this inside of ourselves. So when someone else has made something like a labyrinth or a cathedral or a sacred space, and you then get into that sacred space, the visual reminders and the harmonics of the way those objects are arranged remind you of what you've got arranged inside of you. Everything that's in that labyrinth is also happening to you on a cellular level, on a genetic level, on a neurological level. Because think about this, when you really get down to unity consciousness, when you really get down to the idea that every single one of our minds and consciousnesses meets up here, you understand that we are all totally connected. So if someone else, even if it was someone, in the 1400s created a labyrinth, you're connected to that person. It's like you created it for yourself hundreds of years later to then walk through the labyrinth and be like, wow, I'm having a connection with myself from hundreds of years ago. You created it, or a book, or a song, or a painting. You created all of these reminders for yourself. So there's wonderful aspects of, let's say, the vibratory language that are external. Labyrinth is a good one. Crop circles are a good one. And we can do a little bit about crop circles, because some of them are created purely by higher dimensional hyperspace beings just out of energy. Some of them are created by humans. And the humans are often working in tandem with non-physical energy partners to create something that is in the physical realm. And then there's beings that are agents of chaos. They're hoaxsters. They're just trying to say, I can do this, and they're, throwing a monkey wrench into the works. So all of this has to do with aspects of your own ability to discern. Like if you are, here, a question from Renee. She says, there are no real-time constraints. We transcend this by our pure energy source. And Mike asks about the crop circles. How are they deciphered? That's an easier question for me to respond to than Renee. Then I'll get to Renee. So the way that crop circles are deciphered, okay. First of all, the ones that are made by higher energy beings, You can tell because they are not able to be hoaxed. They've gotten to be very complex, and the way that the plant material is interwoven like this, it's almost like a checkerboard pattern, something that it would be very difficult to reproduce manually and reproduce in the amount of time that those images came up. So the first thing is you look for the real ones, and they keep on changing and getting better because the hyperspace beings, they want to be able to show to you, hey, look at me, this one is a good one, don't look at the hoaxes, look at this one over here. So they keep on coming up with better and better, more complex designs and more complex ways of catching your attention. The ones that are, so first of all, be discerning and figure out which are the ones that are actually made by hyperspace beings, and then it's very similar to understanding my artwork. So my artwork is all based on proportions of circles. If you look at crop circles, they have some of the same proportions. So what you need to do is measure the circles in a crop circle, and then you'll be able to start to see that there are patterns. So you might have, oh, this circle is 12 inches, and this circle is 6 inches, and this circle is 3 inches. And you'll start to see that they correspond with some of the circle patterns that are in my paintings. Noel asks, is it sacred geometry? The answer that I would give is that all geometry is sacred geometry, because really what we're talking about are these patterns of divine or higher intelligence that are being expressed through the matter of the physical universe. So even the way that physical molecules are arranged, you know, it's kind of amazing that science looks at the world in such a random occurrence, because if I just took like, here's a bag full of molecules, I'm just gonna shake them all up and shake them up and shake them up. And somehow, amazingly enough, this random quote-unquote bag full of molecules makes perfect formations every time. It's like when you look at a snowflake and you see how perfect snowflakes are. Then you look at a blizzard, and every single snowflake in the blizzard is made of perfect six-pointed stars. Question from Noel, are they assisting Earth in raising our vibration? The question is, who is they? The answer is yes. There are definitely beings that are helping to assist Earth in raising her vibration. But like, I'm interested to know who Noel is asking about they, because they might be me. Because I'm, you know, not from around here, but I came here specifically in order to, yes, aren't we all? Exactly. We are all transplants. But it's like this, you know, if your ancestors came to New Jersey, you know, 200 years ago, at this point, you're a New Jerseyan, you know, you've been Jerseyfied, you talk like you're from New Jersey, but you came here 200 years ago. How about if you just got off the boat and you just came here from like Luxembourg, or, you know, you just came to New Jersey? Then you're a more relative or more recent immigrant. So mostly humanity has ancestors that came to the planet tens of thousands of years ago, millions of years ago. Some people are quite well intertwined with or invested in the planet and humanoid culture and earth culture. And I have lived here many times in the past. I mean, I was here during the time of Christ in Judea. I was here during the reign of Akhenaten and Nefertiti. I was even here in really realms of antiquity that humans don't have history for anymore. And I've lived, you know, many different experiences, but a lot of those experiences were not in a humanoid body, okay? And I was still interacting with this realm. Coming here and being here in this format of a physical human female is relatively new to me. So it's like saying I just got off the boat and I'm pretty new here. And so I've had to do a lot of like, okay, like this is what it's like to have a human form. Okay, this is what it's like to live amongst human society. Like I had to like scramble in order to catch up. But there's some people who have been here for many experiences and many lifetimes, and they feel very, very comfortable with the idea of being a human or being an earth person and the culture that's going on here. Like they've really done it. But yes, we all get to choose after this incarnation where we will be headed. So you don't have to just be like, hey, you know something, I've lived here for this long and I'm just going to keep on always being here. Like you could be in many places, or you have options is what I'm trying to say that you might not necessarily have known about. And the excellent question about other beings helping us or being here in order to raise our vibration has everything to do with time, because the beings that are helping us are ourselves in the future. And in order for them to even exist, they have to reach back through time and kind of like if you were a mountain climber and you were up here, reaching down and helping the person who's on the ledge below you and actually physically pulling them up and saying, I'm helping you out. Because if I didn't help you out, there's no way for you to get to where you are. So each one of us has future selves, and we come to ourselves in dreams and in healing and in meditation, and we are trying to help our current version of ourselves to reach our full potential, because if you don't, those future versions of yourself will not be in existence. And the future version of yourself does not necessarily look like a humanoid. It might look like a ball of light. It might look like a vibrating snowflake. It might look like a giant lion creature. It might look like a star being with large almond-shaped eyes, and many things that you've probably never imagined. It could look like Sasquatch. You might eventually turn into Sasquatch. You'd be surprised who and what Sasquatch is. But that's something we'll talk about on another occasion. So bookmark that. But the point being, we are all changing and transforming, and we are all helping ourselves in the past, or we have a lot of help from our future selves to assure our existence, because things like Fukushima really keep us teetering in severe jeopardy. Everything on the surface of the planet right now is in jeopardy because of that particular configuration. And so we are getting tons of help, and I think I've spoken about this in class before, from higher space beings who are helping us to avert a total planet-wide nuclear or radioactive disaster and to minimize what is going on, because we're them or they're us. And it's like if you could see a disaster happening in the past, like the Titanic or something like that, and you're like, you know something, those people are going down. I gotta help them. I gotta do something. I'm gonna hop in my time machine and go back there and help them. Well, that is quite analogous to what is going on with Fukushima. And Fukushima is one of these turning points in the history of the planet, after which everything is not the same. And you get to choose which timeline are you going to be on, the timeline of total mutation, where no one has any capacity to reproduce anymore and our humanity is totally degraded, or the timeline of total ascension and expansiveness and being able to achieve your highest potential, or any of the various spectrum of timelines in between. You know, there's compromised timelines. So this has everything to do with each one of us becoming our true ascended master self. And there was a comment that Renee had made about time constraints as we transcend this, our pure energy source. So I'll speak to this in terms of time constraints. The future is not written in stone, and it never was. Everybody who has given prophecies, if it is St. John of Patmos or Edgar Cayce or David Wilcox or any person who is giving channeled information or prophecies, I will tell you this. As soon as you make a prediction, you are changing the realm within which that prediction was meant to happen and affecting whether it's actually going to happen. So if I tell you, you will all eat green beans for dinner tonight, just the fact that I'm making that prediction has changed reality. If I had gotten a visionary experience that said, everyone's eating green beans, and I kept it to myself, there would be a much greater likelihood of that actually happening. Just the fact that I opened my big fat prophecy mouth and said that to everyone now changes things. Now some people will be thinking, I should go buy some beans. Some people will think, there's no way I'm buying beans. I totally don't believe in that prophecy. And every shade of everything in between. I'll tell you this. You all have a pineal gland. You all have an imagination. You all have a will and the capacity to manifest your own reality. And it is not my job, and I would not have the utter pride to say, hey everyone, you should really be living your life like this. Even though, believe me, I want to, because I'd make you all totally rainbow, flying rainbow lasagna. It would be a wonderful world, but I'm not doing that. I'm allowing everybody to paint their own painting, because in the end, I realize that is a much stronger system. It is a very weak and poorly designed system that has one hierarchical pyramid with one manager at the top who goes around and tells everybody what to do. And how exhausting for that hierarchical manager. Much better system to say each person has their own innate divine hierarchical manager who tells them what to do from the inside. That is the flying rainbow lasagna. This is your own innate divine messenger that you all have that connects you to higher reality and to higher consciousness, which tells you what to do. This is why we now live in an era where external authority figures no longer have any relevance. And I invite you all to say that next time an external authority figure comes up to you, tries to tell you how to live your life, tell them, due to the invention of the flying rainbow lasagna, external authority figures no longer have very much relevance in my life. And I would love to hear what happens as a result of doing that. I know, it could be pretty interesting if it was like a police officer or something like that. But the sovereignty movement is all about that, really. That people are recognizing that the only reason why police officers or governments or anybody has power over you is because you give them that power over you. And that really you have your own innate divine connection that tells you what to do. And this is why I'm an artist, because I have my own boss. You know, I joke that my cat is my boss. She is my boss. But really, divine higher consciousness is my boss and tells me, hey, Aurora, you got to go paint a painting. And it's got to look like this. And it's got to have these circles in it. And it's got to have blue. And it's got to be like this and that. That's my boss. And any earthly boss that tells me, Aurora, it is now time for you to march off to work carrying a briefcase and do this and that in an office is a false interloper between myself and true reality. And it's up to each one of us. And this is what this movement of people waking up is all about. People waking up and saying, I choose to follow my own innate divine guidance. So life is also about learning to work with others and boundaries. Because as you are an artist of your reality, so too am I an artist of my reality. And I don't want you to be smearing around on my canvas. You know, don't be messing up my beautiful art exhibit over here. If you want to work together, let's collaborate and co-create, or go paint on your own thing over there, but don't be messing up my stuff. This has everything to do with things like Fukushima or genetically modified organisms. You know something? Monsanto, they're allowed to have their own artistic expression in life, but they are not allowed to do it all over my canvas. They're allowed to do that in order to make their own life mistakes and have their own experiences. Noel says, when we allow others to be who they are, we are loving them unconditionally. That's exactly right. That's right. Even if someone is what I would classify as demonic. Monsanto is literally a demonic corporation. Unconditional love states, I have to allow that entity its course of learning. But I do not have to allow it to harm me or negatively impact me and my course of learning. So what is actually happening is an encapsulation of realities. We have an overarching reality, but within that reality you have little bubbles of reality. So Monsanto is a good example of that. How about like a gated community, someplace where it's people who all have a similar socioeconomic background, they're never challenged by their reality very much, and they are pretty much just existing amidst this time and place. They're in a bubble, but they're not really affecting or being affected by the world at large. This is also about human consciousness. You, me, and everyone on the planet has been in a bubble. The bubble is a bubble of your mind, of your frequency. If you've ever had a psychedelic adventure, you know what I'm talking about. You ingest the right molecule and all of a sudden you're not in the bubble anymore. You're in a different mental state. The bubble has been created by cultural conditioning, by teaching people language, by teaching people to have verbalized conscious thought and have a constant internal dialogue and never shut up. These are the things that keep humanity in the quarantine, and learning how to meditate, to turn off the constant talking. And sometimes people need to blow open their doors of perception with some psychoactive substances, but then once you do it, you don't have to do it every day. But that's another aspect of getting out of the bubble of consciousness so that then you can connect to higher reality. there's a higher reality chat room or virtual place of experience where humans aren't really allowed to be in there. Only higher dimensional beings are allowed to be in there. And until you learn how to wipe your feet and be a respectful, good guest and, speak respectful thoughts in that realm, then you have to keep on practicing down here. And we're all practicing and learning how to be responsible co-creators of reality, emanators of things that we wish to emanate, and building the flapping muscles that are necessary for our consciousness migration. And we will be migrating with many other beings also. So, and in the end, it is not about who's better than who's older than who's been around longer, who's done more, who's this, that. It is mutual respect, and just it's an amazing world of equality once you actually get up there. It's kind of like if you are a musician and you're at the lower level of being a musician, it's all about like auditioning and scrapping and competition and who's better than who and everything like that. But let's say you've already passed the auditions and you're in the symphony and you're surrounded by other virtuoso elite musicians. None of you have anything to prove. You all already have your dream jobs. The composer loves you all, and you are all working together to make the most beautiful music. It really changes. Like, you don't have to be the whole competition vibe. This is what we're moving into. You will be able to drop the whole competition vibe, and it won't be about like, let me get attention ahead of you. Pay attention to me instead of that guy. I'm better than that guy. Don't pay attention to them. Pay attention to me. It won't be like that. It will be a giant, beautiful, co-creative manifestation and artwork that it's hard for people in this time and place to even envision what that type of life and experience can even be. Right on. I know it's been a long, it is a paradise. It sounds like a paradise. Guess what? It is a paradise. And and I'm just stopping the recording. I'm ending the recording. Here we go, because we'll have a